Today's First Alert afternoon weather update is brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.
Good afternoon and happy Monday. First Alert meteorologist Diane Phillips welcoming you into this brand new work and school week. I hope that you were also able to enjoy maybe that first taste of winter weather that arrived over the weekend. We're going to be kind of recapping that system, looking at some of the snow totals that were measured, and we will be talking about when that snow will melt away. It's not going to be sticking around, and I know some of you have been already wondering, okay, we had some early season snow. What does that mean for maybe a white Christmas? Well, it is still too early to tell, but if that's on your mind, we'll just have to, of course, keep an eye as it gets a little bit closer, but we're still a while away from that, so it's really hard to pin down that December 25th forecast. But this afternoon, I do want to start with our winter weather advisory. So starting there, we actually did have this come in around 11:45 this morning. Just for Huron County, this is going to be active until midnight tonight. And the reason that we just have it in Huron County is because of lake effect. So we do have some pretty good lake effect bands that are setting up at times throughout Huron County. Going to radar here, this is kind of a viewpoint of all of mid-Michigan. We will see that a lot of the action though is into the thumb because of northerly winds. So right now our winds are coming out of the north. We're seeing some of those to be around 10 to 15 miles per hour. It's just enough though to where we have been seeing some snow showers. We have this pretty healthy band though that is coming into Canada, so they are really working with some of that. Some of the returns that we have had haven't seemed to be as well organized as what that band is out over Lake Huron, potentially just because we kind of have this portion of northern lower that kind of sneaks out on the side that can kind of be cutting down if we have just enough of a northwesterly wind. So that could be kind of maybe a hindrance to where you can see that this band that we have that is coming into Canada, it has the entire lake that it's able to use to kind of gain. So we actually call that fetch. So you have a lot more water that it's able to develop and kind of build that fetch off of as that northerly breeze comes in. So just considering how that wind is setting up and where it's going, I would anticipate though it's still kind of pulling in that north direction. There might just be a few degrees that kind of get it a little bit closer towards the northwest. But we are still going to be watching for some of these snow showers and even some snow bands here as we go through the next couple of hours. So that's where we're going to be watching, is mainly into the thumb. For locations that are further west, you may be saying, hey, not too much is happening here. We have seen that we've had just a few flurries across Ogama, Iosco, and Aranet counties, but those have kind of seemed to fade away a little bit. That was coming out of the straits closer towards Mackinac, so that has kind of started to settle down this afternoon. But you will see here along 75 and kind of further west, not too much. We have just a little bit of development you can see here, even from the bay, that's trying to get picked up here into Tuscola County. So again, if you're into the thumb, kind of with the wind that we have today, you will continue to see some of these snow showers. But I do anticipate that a lot of this action is going to continue to kind of push eastward as that wind direction shifts a little bit. I'm going to zoom out here and mainly just turn on our satellite component. So actually, let me turn off the radar that is showing, because this one is always kind of interesting to see. So what we have here is the clouds that are moving. Those are clouds. Now the clouds that aren't moving, that's actually the snow. So I am going to go, because we've had some cloud cover. This is earlier today, so closer towards noon. And you can kind of see some of the snow that we picked up yesterday from those lake effect bands. So kind of this first band that we had set up here coming through Bay City along US 10. This is kind of what was setting up around 10:30, even towards noon yesterday. Our winds are just kind of bringing that across the bay and then coming in and bringing that snow band. So that's why we saw right there along US 10. In southern Bay County is where we were having some slow roads. The snow is sticking to the highway. So that's kind of how Sunday morning was going, and that's what we're picking up here. This is kind of that snow band. You can see it did even come towards Freeland as well, and even as close as Merrill. So then we had kind of our second band that set up later into the day. So this was closer towards the afternoon and even the evening. Maybe you were watching the Lions game yesterday and you noticed that there was some pretty intense snowfall rates. So that was from this band here. So we can kind of see that just clipped Bay County. and came into Saginaw. So this one does look to be a little bit thicker. It did come in towards Chesaning. I noticed really last night on radar that was picking up and also kind of pivoting. So that's why we can see that we do still have some returns here for us to be picking up on some of those snow bands that we're moving through. So we had some of that even kind of head a little bit further south. I'm just going to kind of move this so you can see what moves and what doesn't move. So of course what doesn't move is the snow that's being picked up on visible satellite. So some of those bands really were able to kind of throw a lot of that snow further off the bay. So again, we kind of had that band that was kind of sneaking even towards Gratiot County. That's why we had that winter weather advisory come in there. And then kind of the second band was really able to kind of bring that in. And then it did start to pivot a little bit. So that's why we were seeing some of our roads further south, potentially just a little bit slippery. Then we did have into Tuscola County, especially kind of later into the night, just with that wind direction becoming more northerly. That's why we really have a lot of our roadways around Reese, Vassar, in towards Cairo. Some of our school districts did need to close because of the snow band that we picked up here into Tuscola County. Now, another interesting thing is that I am going to also head downstate because of the system that came through over the weekend. We mainly saw lake effect to be a concern, to where that low pressure system that we were watching earlier actually brought snow to the southern half of the state and into Indiana and Ohio. So again, I'm going to kind of put this into motion so you can see that there's not a lot of cloud cover here. All of this white that is showing is just the snow that we have on the ground. Now, I have been checking even some of the more recent satellite data, and we are seeing some melting even with the sun from the snow that we did pick up. So some of that already disappearing because of that, but this is kind of that system that we've had that brought that low pressure system brought that snow, and then we saw kind of for us as we zoom out here, as that was kind of coming back, we were able to source in northeast winds. So as the system kind of came up over Lake Erie, it was actually throwing northeast winds, that setup. So that's why we really saw more impacts from lake effect yesterday rather than the low pressure system itself. So if you have some friends, family that are a little bit further downstate, they were actually more impacted by the storm itself, the center of the storm, to where we were impacted here at home just because of lake effect and really the winds being thrown away from that storm. So kind of two different components, and that's kind of what made that forecast pretty tricky going into last week, is where did the center of that storm set up? Were we going to end up with the snow that the southern half of the state saw, or were we going to see lake effect? And because we had that more southerly track, we saw lake effect in this system. Now we are going to go and take a quick break since we kind of recapped a little bit. I do still have some snow totals to share, but I do want to get those kind of set up, see if we have any new ones come in. So we're going to take a 60-second break and we are going to be right back. We are back. So we are going to be talking about some of those snow totals that we did pick up here through the weekend. I have that list here. This is just a handful of them. Of course, a lot of you have been sharing them in the comments on Facebook or even into that WNEM weather email account. So feel free to drop us your location and also a picture of your ruler that you had in the snow. But of course, we have had some melt today, so it's kind of tricky now to really know what some of those totals were. But in Freeland, closer towards the airport, we had 6 inches measured, and I anticipate that's really kind of from more of that morning band that came through on Sunday. Shields picked up about 4.5. Tittabawassee Township had about 3.5, and then Bay City just under that 2-inch mark, and then around Flint Bishop Airport and into Owasso we saw about 1.5 inches. So still a good amount for a first snow in November. It's sticking around. That doesn't look very likely here into the forecast. I do, though, anticipate it to hang around a little bit longer because take a look look at some of our wind chills. So our feels like temperatures outside today very much have our winter coats, hats, and gloves in the forecast, because we do find that it feels like about 15 degrees right now in Saginaw. Even though it is sunny, we are finding it feels like winter outside. It feels like about 17 in Bad Axe and in Flint, same in Midland. It feels about like 16 in Elma. Some of these 20s, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they're just not picking up on that breeze. So a lot of us are going to be having those feels like temperatures that are going to be into the upper teens and lower 20s. Now, air temperatures themselves, we are seeing those to be a little bit on the warmer side. You are going to be seeing those, well, warmer than the feels like temperature, I should say. We are still below freezing and easily below average, as we are finding our readings into the upper 20s, lower 30s. So considering that we have seen that sunshine now, the air temperature is not really trying to help with the melting process of the snow, and also with the cold air. That's why we are still tracking that lake effect across the thumb. So it is still going to be cooler. I also, because it is right here in my workspace, do want to update on roadways. A lot of those are looking pretty good right now. I know we had some slower spots this morning. Definitely saw some slower speeds into those bands, but we are seeing some big improvements here to where a lot of our highways, or the main roadways, are into the green. Even as we kind of zoom in here to Genesee County, no major slowdowns regarding the weather. And even coming into the Great Lakes Bay region, you can see here into the thumb, some of those snow bands are definitely slowing us down. So we are going to find that if you're on the Bad Axe area or M53, that's where we are finding that we do have some slower speeds. That's also where that band is setting up. I wouldn't be surprised if in Ubly we already see some orange, but even along M19, if we start to see some slower roadways as we go throughout the afternoon. So be prepared. Some of these snow bands can bring just some heavier amounts of snow, and it can cause our roadways to be fairly slippery. Actually, I will share some of our surface temperatures. We've been watching these closely, and we have, of course, with the last couple of nights with those 20s come through, had some cooler air. So some of our surface temperatures, we are finding those to be a little bit closer to the lower 40s, and some of us are even into the 30s. So we did have a lot of melt during yesterday afternoon with the snow that came through, but it just wasn't enough, especially with what we picked up after sunset. So we are finding that with our ground temperatures, those are going to continue to be something that we need to watch in case we have yet another snow in the forecast, not looking likely, with warmer air coming in, but we are of course keeping an eye to those conditions. Now I am going to be bringing up our camera here. This one should be in Birch Run, so I thought that this was a good camera to kind of share here, because we'll find that 75 and a lot of the ramps are dry. But earlier today, and I'm glad to see that this is drying out, but earlier today, we kind of had this big puddle here on the ramp as you were going from the northbound lanes off to the exit ramp for Birch Run. And we kind of had that puddle there. Thankfully, it has dried up a little bit, but really I'm pointing this out because if you run into any roads tonight that are not treated and are still wet, they are going to refreeze tonight because it's going to be cold. So anything like this that has kind of a puddle or sitting water can become icy. And then as we have tires driving through them, that can kind of carry that water and kind of coat that ice as we go. So be cautious on roadways still tonight and into tomorrow morning. I would still give yourself some extra time tomorrow morning, because even though we have that sun to kind of help us to melt and to dry out, it just doesn't always get the job done as quickly, especially with our temperatures still being cool and around freezing, meaning that it is hard to kind of have that melting process go on. So just something to kind of keep in mind here. As we have been talking, we are still watching that lake effect here into the thumb. We're watching for that winter weather advisory into Huron County. I did actually send a push alert for you into the thumb earlier today, so you can also get that update on the First Alert weather app. But we are finding that we've had a little bit of cloud cover come in today. When we look at the hour-by-hour forecast, we're going to continue to see that we have some good amounts of snow that are still possible along some of these bands here into the thumb, especially across Huron County. Then as we go a little bit deeper in time this afternoon, you can see a lot more of it kind of geared towards the eastern portion of the county. So if you're in Port Hope and you haven't seen too much action, hold on yet. I still anticipate picking up on some snow. And as we continue to kind of see that wind direction change, we'll see it closer towards 6, 7 o'clock being right along the shoreline. So that is going to have some impacts here for Sanilac County. And then eventually closer towards bedtime, we kind of see it out towards the water as we kind of get that wind shifting a little bit. But then we will have to then kind of watch on the other side where Lake Michigan kind of brings some of these snow showers in towards Clare and Roscommon counties. So we'll be watching all of that closely. Now, as we go through the next couple of hours, you are going to see into tomorrow morning, we still just have some lingering kind of isolated snow showers that are going to be coming through. We still have the chance into the afternoon for us to be seeing at least some rain and snow showers. Mainly, I'm anticipating seeing snow showers just because we are still kind of locked into more of a cooler solution rather than mild at that point. But as we go into the middle of the week, we will start to see some more warmer air coming in, and that does bring us a chance for some rain showers. So for the rest of the week, we don't really run into dry weather until later on. So just kind of be prepared for some scattered showers, whether they be rain or snow here for the next couple of days. I do also want to kind of talk about accumulations here into Huron County. I'm going to back it up through midnight tonight. Really, we're not anticipating adding much new snow for most of us, but you can see here into Bad Axe, Fort Hope, it's kind of showing a short inch to be possible. And some of those bands, like you can see kind of this blue spot right here into the eastern portions of Huron County, that's where we can have some of those bands set up that can drop enough snow quick enough for it to start to stack and add up. So that's where we would be looking at potentially an inch, maybe getting up to 2 inches in those very isolated kind of fine tuning. So just talking about a couple of miles where we could see some pockets of snow that start to kind of hop up on those totals a little bit. But as we go into tonight, again, that lake effect will wrap up, and then we will see that it's a little bit quieter on any snow accumulation chances in the next couple of days. So that's mainly what we're working with, still a manageable amount of snow, but it has been showing that we do have some cooler roadways yet to where they are a little bit slick into the thumb. So be mindful if you're going to be traveling out there today. Our high temperatures, we are going to be finding those into the lower 30s, kind of right around freezing. We still have a little heat to gain here, but that's going to just wrap up here in the next hour or so. And then low temperatures tonight, as I had mentioned, kind of that refreeze chance, we are going to be seeing that we have that because look at these lows dropping into the low to mid 20s. Very much a winter setup here, feeling a lot cooler, cold outside tomorrow morning at the bus stop. So make sure that the kids are dressed appropriately. I know that they're not a big fan of wearing a coat and they still have their shorts on, but they're going to definitely want to be comfortable. So that means having those long-legged pants on, having those jackets on, hats and gloves. You want to be comfortable. Fashion, I know, is always kind of hard to keep up with, but being comfortable, that should always be the top priority, and that means staying warm outside. So and just be prepared that we can have some icy spots from refreeze and that it's just going to be feeling cold tomorrow. Our high temperatures to come, I wanted to show this because I had talked about that snow melting away. We actually do jump above freezing tomorrow, so we have a better chance of that then. But it's really not until kind of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday when we have those mid 40s coming in. So a lot of us are going to be having that snow doing a big disappearing act throughout the later half of this week, even 50 degrees on Friday. And that means that a lot of that snow will probably be gone by then. So if you have some weekend plans and you want to have some of the snow sticking around, maybe you want to do Christmas card photos, going to be tricky. I'd rather just have you do the photos now while we at least have some snow if that's what you're in the market for. So just kind of keep that in mind that the snow is not going to be here by the weekend. I anticipate that a lot of it is actually going to even disappear by Wednesday. So we are going to be finding that the snow will not be sticking around and we'll kind of be back to kind of that late green color that's still kind of holding on here. But as that cold air comes in, I know it's just not nearly as colorful outside here in Michigan. As we look at the next 7 days, you are going to find that we still have the lake effect that we're watching for today, and we're still going to be keeping some of those scattered shower chances in for Tuesday as well. We've kind of been watching that signal into the evening. I am picking up on a slight change here for the evening forecast, so make sure you're tuning into TV5 News at 4. We'll have, of course, another look at that Tuesday forecast, but after I finish the live stream, we're going to kind of dive deeper into that Tuesday. But as we go into Wednesday, you'll see some isolated rain chances, also some breezy days ahead, so it's going to be feeling cooler, but high temperatures are still climbing. As I mentioned, we have those 40s and 50s that are on the way, and even overnight temperatures, those are also going to start to climb as well. We're looking forward to Thursday and Friday. Those are still looking dry with high pressure coming in. Some sunshine is expected those days, but with hunting season opening up on this weekend, we are going to be finding that we do have some rainfall. So I know it's not ideal for hunters who want to get out there in their stands, but we will have some rain to tend to. So make sure that you are, one, being safe out there, but also watching the forecast in case we can change some of the timing. I have seen some variation through the weekend, so I do anticipate that there are some changes as the week goes on. So again, if you you're going to be maybe going up north this weekend to do a little bit of hunting, and make sure you have that First Alert weather app. Kind of keep an eye to that forecast. But I do appreciate everybody for joining me here this afternoon. I know First Alert Chief Meteorologist Chris Easlake, he's going to be back here at the First Alert desk tonight at 9 o'clock. And then also we're going to have that brand new 7-day forecast coming up on TV5 News at 4. So there's plenty of ways to connect with us. Of course, we're glad that you're joining us here at WNEM.com, on the WNEM YouTube and Facebook pages. And then don't forget, you can stream us at our Roku and Fire Stick channels, which also reminds me, I'm going to see if I can bring that up here to kind of share with everybody what we have going, because I want to show you that there's a lot that is happening here in the streaming world. So I don't want you to miss out on some of maybe these live events that are going on. Of course, I'm going live right now, so you can see that here in our stream. But I just want to show you that, of course, we have Matthew. He's streaming at 10:30 in the morning. Also, our morning team there at 7:05. They are also streaming some of the top headlines from the morning. So in case you're not up as early as they are, you can still get the latest news and weather from them. And then again, Chris has been doing some updates at 9 o'clock. And of course, just as business as usual here, like it has been the last couple of months, at 2 o'clock, myself or First Alert Meteorologist Stone Schaefer, we're kind of keeping an eye to that afternoon time frame. But also our sports team, they're doing a lot of good things and a lot of extras. So make sure that you are checking in with TV5. There's plenty of ways that you can connect with us here. But I thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us. Today's stream has been brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.